Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies, bringing you another Imperial Knight video. So as you know, Games Workshop are bringing out a bunch of new knights for the Horus Heresy, but they've also stated in a ton of articles that these are obviously compatible with Warhammer 40,000 as well. I'm not planning on doing a Horus Heresy Knight house, so I'm going to be using them for Warhammer 40,000. And I decided to do something a little bit funky with the ones they sent me, because I normally, when I do my knights, which I've done a couple so far, and I've got a whole heap more to do, but the ones that I've done are all different colors. My plan is to do like a free blade and then 2 armigers to match. So that guy needs 2 armigers and that guy needs 2 armigers, and that's the style. I like kind of, a knight is such a large project that I don't particularly enjoy the idea of doing, I don't know, loads of big guys the same. That was until the new big knights came out, and then I decided to change my tone a little bit, and I've switched over to one solid house for these particular knights. These are the 2 that I have done so far. These are obviously the beautiful new Cerastus knights. So obviously I've got the Acheron, which arrived this week, which I've gotten that built and painted, and that's what I'm going to show you me doing in today's video. It's obviously the one with the crazy big flamer, and the cabling system on this new knight is kind of insane. And the one they sent me a couple of weeks ago, which is of course the Knight Lancer, which is absolutely stunning. Haven't had a chance to do the Castigator yet. That will obviously be the next one that I do, but I absolutely love these tall regal knights, and I love playing around with the Black Templar aesthetic for them and matching them into that army. I've got a whole story in my head about how they've come to be serving the Black Templars or fighting alongside the Black Templars, but my personal Black Templar army has obviously gotten to quite a nice size at this stage, so adding in some kind of more interesting units for me is definitely something I want to do. So as you can see, quite a lot of Black Templars, all fully painted, all ready to rock and roll. As you can see, I'm already a big fan of big stompy robots for them, so adding in some knights seems like the logical next step. So that's what today's video is going to be about. I'm going to be painting up that knight and having a chat about that, my story as to where they came from and why they're involved with my particular crusade. So hopefully you'll find this fun and interesting, so stick around. And as per usual, I have taken all of the panels and parts off of the knight that are not going to be glued on, and I attached them to my very, very handy painting handles, which I can never for the life of me remember the name of the company. I don't know why, but I'm sure my glorious helper will put the name on the top of the screen now. So you guys can check them out if you want to. These are incredibly useful and helpful handles for holding miniatures as you're painting. So obviously all the panels are left off of the knight, except for the ones on the arm. I am not a big fan of moving parts. I'm going to leave this bit moving because it's kind of fun and funny and it's weird, but all the rest of this model, this piece here is all solidly glued. The arms are locked in place. I've chosen a pose and it's locked into that. I may not talk as much about my actual process of painting this particular knight as I would have the first time around, but since how I did the Knight Lancer with the same kind of scheme, that is a very detailed video, so if you want to check that one out and just go step by step if you want to follow along. One of my favorite tips is this: when it comes to the actual main body of it, I spray the model black and then I dust the model silver, and that's it. I paint in all the cables and I'll do some weathering on it later, but as for the actual exoskeleton of a knight, if you do this, it's going to look fairly decent, and once you stick all the panels and stuff on top of it and add a bit of weathering, it looks fantastic. You don't need to spend hours and hours of time painting pistons and other bits and pieces that people are never going to look at. Now, like I said at the beginning of this video, these guys are going to be, of course, painted in glorious Black Templar Knight heraldry. Obviously, these are knights. They're amazing, and knights, Black Templars, it kind of just makes sense. And since I've already done one of these guys in the Knight Lancers, the Knight Lancer in the Black Templars color scheme, I already know that this works. It looks really cool, and I'm super pleased with it. As for the reason as to where they came from, the story in my head is, unfortunately, during the invasion of a particular imperial world, they were failing, they were falling to chaos, and they did need to pull out of the system and off that planet. Some of the forces that were participating in the engagement were, of course, a Knight household and some Black Templars. The Knight household, thinking they had to be left behind and abandoned as they had no way of getting off the planet, soon realized that the Black Templars were in fact perfectly capable, because unbeknownst to most of the Imperium, the flagship of the Black Templars is actually a Gloriana class battleship. So it is one of the largest ships to ever, travel the stars in the name of the Imperium. The Gloriana classes were originally designed and constructed as flagships for all of the Primarchs. But when glorious Rogel Dorn was found, he was not in need of a flagship, as he already had command of the Phalanx, which is an even more powerful and gigantic ship. So he gifted his Gloriana class to the Black Templars so they could use that as their mobile fortress monastery and their flagship. So they still command this glorious vessel to this day. It is a monster and a powerhouse, and it is perfectly capable of holding a Knight household on board, keeping it maintained, repaired, and obviously delivering into the war zones it's needed to fight in. I think over time, that particular Knight house felt the appreciation of being saved by the Knights, or by the Black Templars, and serving alongside them for a prolonged period of time, see them grow a mutual respect, and eventually they asked permission and were granted to carry the heraldry of the Black Templars into war, and ever since then they have done so. So aboard the Gloriana class ship, commanded by the Black Templars, there is a Black Templar Knight household. This is my personal lore, but I think it fits in nicely and gives me the opportunity to put these massive engines of war to good use and field them alongside my Black Templars. I mean, I have 3 large Knights already painted, now these 2, so that's 5. Even if I was to play a full Knight army, it's between kind of 4 and 5 large Knights. If you're going to take a lot of armigers, it's maybe 2 or 3 large Knights. So I don't really feel the need to own 10 Knights all painted the same. And that's probably about the amount of Knights I still have to build, is another 4 or 5 Knights. And that's not including the other Lancer. I mean, the standard Knights, I have a Canis Rex to build, and I have the other larger Knight to build, and a couple of smaller ones, and I think I've about 12 armigers to build and paint. So the idea of building and painting them all to match each other, it just doesn't grab me. I don't like the idea of it. So I do like the idea, however, of including them mixed in with some other Imperial forces. So there's a bunch of different free blade households that I love the look of. That's a contradiction of free blade household. The whole idea of a free blade is it doesn't have a household. So there's a bunch of different free blade schemes that I love, and I'm sure I will do a couple of them in those schemes. But then I am more than happy to add some of them into Space Marine armies or Imperial Guard armies and have the heraldry match. I don't need to realistically justify myself every time I want to do it. I just think it would look amazing. I think an Ultramarines Knight, a Flesh Tearers Knight, and a Cadian Knight would look absolutely fantastic. And they are something that I will probably do moving forward. I may do a Death Corps of Krieg Knight. Someone suggested that this particular Knight here, the Flamer one, would look really good as a Death Corps of Krieg Knight. And they're totally correct. It would have looked sick. All in Krieg transfers all over it, all weathered down, maybe a few dents and scratches. And I'm not really one for the memes. I do like the idea of the Death Corps of Krieg using, trench shovels as combat weapons. That's fine to me. But the conversion parts out there that give you a giant gas mask and a giant shovel being equipped by a knight is a funny meme, but it's not something that I want to own. So please don't link that in the comments below. I don't want to own that. I don't think it looks particularly good. But yeah, going through the process of the Black Templars, the last one I did, the Lancer, I think I did a pretty good job, but for some reason there's some things I decided not to do when I was trying to make it look more Black Templar. Like, it didn't have white shoulder pads. I don't know why I didn't do that. I'm of course choosing to correct that with this second Knight and give it the nice white shoulder pads. And of course when I add in the transfers, which I will do in a moment, I think they're going to pop even more and look ace. Obviously I had to do the freehand and, like, instead of airbrushing, actually use brushwork to get some of the details on the weapons and the head mounts and stuff like that, but that will also work. Before I do go any further, it's time to have a quick mention of today's sponsor, which is of course the glorious independent stockist Eirehobbies, which is a local store to Ireland. They are now a continuous supporter of the channel, so I cannot be more happy with them. Their store is absolutely magnificent, as you can see in this the video here. Their store is jam-packed full of awesome miniatures from so many different ranges. And they are quite active on their social media, so I thoroughly recommend that you go and support them over on Instagram and give them a follow if they are something that can help you. As you will see, how frequently they restock or add new stock to their existing is kind of insane. Every Saturday you can see the list of things added in their stories, and it's always quite a lengthy list of stories, which is quite cool. One of the most recent things they've added, which I'm kind of keen to get my grubby hands on for October, is they've started to stock Cromlech in store, which I think is really cool. And yeah, my favorite thing about them is their ordering system. So if you place a €60 or more order, you get next day delivery anywhere in Ireland, next business day, of course. And I've used this to my advantage on many occasions when I've silly forgotten things that I need, like glue and spray and the like. I'm actually on my last can of Chaos Black spray, so I will be placing my next order with Eirehobbies very soon. And then of course I'll need to add a few extra bits to it to keep me going. Once again, a huge thank you to Eirehobbies for the continuous support on my channel. You're awesome, your store is awesome, and I hope all the peeps will check you out with the links below in the description and see if you can get yourselves some nice shiny treats. Now back to the glory that is this knight. As you can see, all the trim and stuff has been put on, and now it's time for my favorite part, which is applying transfers. This might be my personal best number of transfers stuck to a single model. I actually applied 25 transfers to the panels of my Black Templar knight. That may seem excessive, but for people out there who decide not to use transfers, I just can't fathom it. I really can't. If you get yourself a pot of micro set, micro sol, and a little bit of varnish, you can apply transfers and they're going to look like they're painted on. They look magnificent, and for literally no work. I'd say it took me maybe 30 minutes to stick 25 transfers on, and it makes an absolutely huge difference. And as you can see, the white shoulder pads, of course, with the Black Templar crosses really does scream the right aesthetic. Yeah, I may have gone a little bit overboard with the shins, but who cares? I mean, I want them to look awesome. The knees I went even more overboard with, 4 transfers a piece. Might have been a little bit crazy, but they were so naturally quartered, I think it just made sense. After that, it was time for the weathering and highlighting stage, which I did all in one go with one of the Green Stuff World weathering sticks, which is just a bit of foam shoved in a pipe. You can do the exact same thing with a little bit of case foam and that you pull out of your case, some spare pluck foam. They just sent me these, so I thought, why not give them a go? And it's very simple. You just treat it like dry brushing. You load up the bit of sponge on the end. You remove most of it on your hand or on a bit of paper or whatever like that. And then you stipple it onto the flatter areas to create some chips and stuff. And then you dry brush it across the metallic bits to give you a bit of highlighting. It takes about 10 seconds, but it does really work a treat for speeding up the process. And for me, these days, it's getting more and more like necessary for me to do the quickest schemes possible to get through the kind of immense amount of models that I have to get through to keep you guys satisfied, sated, and happy. There's so many awesome models coming out these days, and I hate when I miss showing you guys something, because I know there are people out there, even if it only helps one person. I hate if that one person had come onto my channel being like, oh, this model is really cool, I wish I'd get a hand painting it, and then that video is not there for them. So going through everything and trying to get these models out is a lot of work, but I think it's worth it. But I couldn't lavish a week's worth of time on this one night like other channels seem to be able to do. I don't know how they do it, but I much prefer putting in the work to get as many videos out as possible. I know the production value isn't as high as other people, but I definitely think there's a quality to the quantity, if you know what I mean. Sometimes I don't think you need a million fancy camera angles to get the point across or to help you guys get a cool model painted or on a tabletop. After I stuck all the panels on, it definitely looked very knightly. And then the last stage for me is adding some weathering. And I once again go back to my weathering powder, which I apply with an old shade brush, just around edges and in nooks and crannies and around kind of pistons and shins and feet. It's a very simple technique. It does add a nice extra bit of detail, like these guys will be stomping through. And with the Martian bases, the red dust really does kind of pop. Some people tend to think that I go overboard with my weathering, and that's totally up to you. You can go less or more. You can add no weathering if you don't want to. But I still like the idea of these guys constantly you know, storming through hails of enemy gunfire and artillery fire, and as the enemy artillery hits around them, it's going to have big huge clumps of dust up in the air, which is going to be landing and clattering off their impenetrable hull. And I just love it. So yeah, here he is next to the other one that I did, which is a little bit less weathered. I might add more weathering to him, but I am really happy. Okay guys, and there we have it. As you see, I've managed to get this knight finished and added to my Black Templars collection. I really like how he turned out. I like the fact that I did the cream shoulder pads to match him in properly. Don't know why I didn't think about doing it on this one, but he definitely feels even more Black Templar-y than the first one that I did. But I still absolutely love both of them. And I'm very excited to get the Castigator done and matched in with them as well. I don't know why it's not focusing right now, I do apologize. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give it a like. If you're interested in joining my Patreon, there is a link to that below. You get access to a private Discord server and an extra video every single week. So that's 52 extra videos a year, which I think is pretty sweet for being a member of that. It also helps support the channel, keep the lights on, the cameras rolling, and all that jazz. If you have any questions about this video, about my knights, about my lore, please let me know in the comments below. I'll get back to each and every one of you guys. And make sure that you're subscribed if you're not already. It does make a huge difference to the channel. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you in the next video.